Aisyah Muhammad Taib, Breast and Endocrine CEO of Integrated Medical Systems in Berhad, Dr. Hologic, Managing Director of National Cancer Society Malaysia, ladies from the Peak Unity Support Group, friends and our viewers watching this live from our Facebook page. A very good morning and happy Sunday. I hope that you're all in peak of health. We are gathered here today in the month of peak October to celebrate a very important milestone, one that is life-changing and life-saving. National Cancer Society Malaysia was the very first healthcare center in the nation to install the 3D breast tomosynthesis mammography machine. It has now been a decade since we revolutionized the landscape of mammography screening in Malaysia after the launch in 2011. We'd like to attribute the success of this milestone to our partners, Hologic Incorporated and Integrated Medical Systems, Sdn Berhad. Without further ado, we'd like to kickstart this celebration. I'd like to invite Dr. Murali from National Cancer Society Malaysia to present his speech.
One of the big challenges of breast cancer is actually finding it. And when we talk about finding it, we have this whole range of tools, these things that we need to do in order for a woman to actually partner hospitals all throughout Malaysia, many of which have a 3D mammogram in place. There's of course always our partners across the Klang Valley, including University of Malaya and other institutions. So go ahead, get up, get screened. That is the message. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Murali. Next, we'd like to invite Mr. Bernard to deliver your speech.
Dr. Murali, Managing Director, National Cancer Society Malaysia, Prof. Ms. Aisyah, Breast Endocrine Surgeon, University of Malaya, and esteemed guests. Very good morning to everyone. On behalf of Integrated Medical System, I would like to thank everyone present here for National Cancer Society Pink October event, and also to congratulate them for providing consistent and best service on breast cancer early detection throughout the years. Integrated Medical System is honored to be given the opportunity to be part of National Cancer Society journey, breast cancer screening, is one of the preferred service provider. Just to put into context, this collaboration started in 2002. So I think it's almost about 20 years. It started off with Datuk Dama, late Datuk Dama. He went for the digital system. The digital, that means to say from analog, he moved to digital under with Dr. Sulaiman. And that was also the first time digital mammography, that is full-field digital mammo. And it so happened that the 2D or the FFDM, they call it in short form, is the first installed in an NGO. So the rest of the installation was basically from the government because of the technology. Thus, National Cancer Society Malaysia became the first private NGO to install the system. Fast forward 2011, again National Cancer Society looked forward to upgrading and innovation. And it's timely at that time. Hologic just got the FDA approval on 2011. So meaning to say that National Cancer Society is the first center to acquire the hormone or 3D mammography system. Today, October the 10th, marked the 10th year anniversary of National Cancer Society using a 3D mammography. Hologic is extremely excited and would be here if not for the pandemic. And the VP and GM of Hologic, Ms. Linda Sia, sent a recorded video. The system used till today was so well designed and proven with hundreds of studies and research to provide most accurate cancer detection with low dose, reduced compression, comfort and speed, as well as reliability. All features benefit both for doctors, operators, as well as patients. Well, for investors, when they invest in this sort of equipment, they love it because I think it's reliable, it's durable, and you can use it for a long time. So in terms of return of investment, they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and competitors did try to unsuccessfully match the existing National Cancer Society system. But put into context, the system can be upgraded, and is still the system that is being used today. It is still current after 10 years. Integrated medical system is proud to be of service to National Cancer Society to achieve the vision of living in a world without cancer. With enhanced partnership like this, we look forward to many more years and collaboration to work together. I cannot end this talk without mentioning the organizing team for putting up such a good show, and I want to thank everyone.
Greetings from Hologic, and congratulations to the National Cancer Society of Malaysia. In 2011, Hologic transformed breast cancer screening with a breakthrough technology, the 3D mammography SM. It is the only mammogram clinically proven as superior when compared to 2D mammography. And this clinical benefit includes women with dense breasts, which is very relevant to Asia. We are pleased to share that 10 years on, Hologic has more than 9,000 3D mammography systems in use globally, and Hologic's Selenium Dimension Scan 3 remains unrivaled in accuracy, quality, and comfort till today. More importantly, 3D mammography is now considered the standard of care for breast cancer screening and heritage of bold innovation. For example, we lead the world's conversion from field-based mammography to digital mammography. We also develop software algorithms to help radiologists estimate breast density and isolate areas of the breast that appear abnormal. The revolution we created in tomosynthesis technology is no different. This spirit of innovation is made possible through strong collaboration with our healthcare community. While the FDA clinical trials showed very positive outcomes, it is the response from the healthcare community that gives us the utmost gratification. We often receive feedback from healthcare professionals pointing out how gratified they are with this technology because it helped them to do their job better and helped them feel more confident that they need correct medical diagnosis. Hundreds of research findings have made one thing very clear. Digital breast tomosynthesis produces more accurate imaging than 2D mammography alone. As we all know, the advantages of 3D mammography include fewer callbacks, higher detection of more invasive breast cancers, and being superior for women. Leader in breast health, Hologic will continue to broaden access to what we know to be the best possible tool in the early detection of breast cancer. We aim to have every woman, regardless of race, geography, socio-economic status, or any other measures, to have access to the diagnosis and care they deserve. We also continue to work hard and focus on innovative solutions for the entire continuum of care. You may be aware that Hologic has a comprehensive range of solutions from screening equipment to biopsy and breast surgery, and the latest in artificial intelligence to aid in the care of breast cancer patients. So we thank you all once again to be part of this incredible innovative journey of Hologic and to be part of this event launched by the National Cancer Society of Malaysia. And we hope that our products and solutions continue to narrow the gap between doubt and confidence and to work to achieve both incremental and transformational progress to improve patients' lives. Enjoy yourselves.
The most common cancer in Malaysia, according to the Malaysian National Cancer Registry report of 2012 to 2016, 47.9% of women, which means almost half, were diagnosed at late stages, that is stage 3 and stage 4. The main reason for this occurrence is late detection, and the power to lower these statistics lies with each of you. If there is one person who can convince you to pick up that phone and make that breast screening appointment, it will be our next speaker. Professor Dr. Nur Aisha, we'd like to invite you to convey the message.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chairperson. Thank you, Mr. Tan, for my MS, and Dr. Murali, our Medical Director from National Cancer Society. So I think today marks the first weekend, or maybe it's the second weekend in the October month. And of course, October means breast cancer awareness. We thank National Cancer Society for always taking the lead, and it shows the spirit of Malaysians in general, really, where we lead from the grounds up. We don't need top-down instructions, but we know from grounds up we can actually make our lives better. So today, I think what we want to speak about is about cancer control, about breast cancer control. I think as what our Ms. Chairperson mentioned, late-stage presentation remains a major challenge in Malaysia. So how do we reduce this 47% to maybe about 20% of the breast cancer patients? So there are multiple initiatives being done right now globally. Recently, the WHO Breast Cancer Global Initiative has put out an initiative in June this year on how to reduce mortality, premature mortality from breast cancer by about 20%, right? And how it's done is through what we call early diagnosis. So what's the difference between early diagnosis and screening? So early diagnosis means it's not just about screening. It's not just about people with no symptoms. It's really about people with symptoms. So in breast cancer detection, why do we diagnose stage 3 or have very locally advanced disease? That means these lumps can be detected by themselves, or sometimes very rarely not detected by themselves. See, unfortunately, there are some women who do not feel anything in the breast and they suddenly present with the cancer that has spread. But this is the rare instance. More commonly, people actually have that lump, and that lump is painless. So I would like to maybe reach out to the public to be able to recognize symptoms of breast cancer, because the detection of the symptoms, usually it's a painless breast lump. Anything that is 2 centimeter and below could actually get you a stage 1 breast cancer, right? But more commonly in symptomatic breast cancer patients, they can be diagnosed at stage 2. And the stage 2 5-year survival rates is exceeding about 85%, more than 85%. So in Malaysia, we did have the survival analysis called the MyScan report that came out in 2018, showed that the 5-year relative survival rates in Malaysia is about 67%. And this is really a reflection of the about 50% representing very advanced disease. So how do we go about doing this? So first, I mentioned about the early diagnosis. So WHO has informed us that they want a diagnostic interval of 60 days. That means from the detection of symptom by the patient to the resolution of diagnosis, it should only take 2 months. So how can we in the health system improve this care? It's really about strengthening our networks, diagnostic networks. To make a diagnosis of breast cancer, you need several things, right? You need the surgeon, who is usually the diagnostician. You need the radiology services, which is mammogram and ultrasound, and eventually you need a lab. And we need to get this diagnostic interval down as low as we can to improve the detection rates to be about 60 days within the time the woman presents with a symptom. So we need to work together, that's what Dr. Murali says. The patient needs to detect their lumps earlier, detect their symptoms earlier. The doctors need to identify that they need to get this diagnostic interval as quickly as possible. And all the other jigsaw puzzle, as Dr. Murali mentioned just now, need to work together. Pathology labs need to come up with diagnostics within a week. Okay, in private sector you can read within days, right? But in public sector sometimes it takes 2 weeks, which will take a bit long. Okay, so that's about early diagnosis. We have to strengthen the health system to improve it. We have to improve the health literacy of our population. So now let's go to screening. So what really is screening? So screening is detecting breast cancer when the woman has no symptoms at all. She's coming in for a routine checkup and then comes in and suddenly finds she's got cancer. From being a well woman, she becomes an unwell woman overnight, right? So this is the issue about screening, and I think screening is something that we need to look at the quality of screening. What makes up quality of screening? It's really the imaging capacity. So what makes the imaging of poor quality, or even because the woman has some conditions that make it difficult to detect? So this is where we talk about breast density. So breast density just means that the breast tissue is very, very dense. Okay, so as a woman ages, most of the time what happens is that the breast becomes fatty. The breast tissue changes into fatty tissues, and through an X-ray, fat is black. So if cancer is white and fat is black, you will be able to detect the cancer. But if you have dense breast, the breast looks white, the cancer looks white, so you can't see anything. So this is the problem with breast density. So what happens with breast density? So back, I think, many years now, I think I can't remember, 2014 or so in the US, there came a legislation that all women with dense breast has to be informed that they need supplementary imaging. Okay? However, now in 2021, a lot of studies have been done to see the impact of having supplemental tests. So what happens when women have a dense breast on mammogram? Usually the doctors would advise a supplementary ultrasound to see whether there's anything else in the breast. So unfortunately, those studies show, even though it is very sensitive, you detect more lesions with the ultrasound, it also increases the number of biopsies. It increases the number of false positive results. That means a woman who comes to a test will end up doing a biopsy for a benign lesion. So this is what we call the harms of screening. So this is a balancing act. There is no right and wrong answer per se. Because we have had many women telling us, you know, if I didn't do that ultrasound, my cancer will not have been detected. Okay, but to do that, you have to have the bad side of things. That means more women will need to come in for biopsies. So that is why it is always important when you go out to do screening, you must be mentally prepared that when you need to go for screening, you may need further tests. Okay, so sometimes it's not easy for a woman because they follow their friends, right? Free mammogram or go together with a buddy, have a screening mammogram, and suddenly, oops, found something. And not all these people will have a cancer. So that anxiety and worry is something that is real and it can haunt a woman for many months. So the bottom line is, if you are going for screening, you need to be mentally prepared that maybe you may need to go for all these tests. But most of the time, these tests are negative, right? And if you do find something on the mammogram, this cancer is likely to be very early and could have saved your life. Okay? So what's the difference between the 3D and the 2D mammogram? So I think Mr. Tan mentioned a little bit about that just now. So you see, almost half of the women in the world, aged 50 and 74 years old, actually have dense breasts. So when in Malaysia, especially when you have a dense breast, when you go for a screening mammogram, the radiologist is likely to come up with a supplementary ultrasound. But when you go for 3D mammogram, this need for the supplementary ultrasound may actually reduce. In fact, in my hospital, the number of ultrasound has reduced tremendously because we have started using the 3D mammograms. So in terms of the dosage of the radiation, a lot of people are scared, even with the 2D or the older version of mammogram, that dose is not going to cause cancer in most people. Okay? Because one mammogram dose is something like being exposed to background radiation for about 3 months. So it's a very minuscule amount of radiation. Okay? The 3D mammogram, most of the time, it will equal this dose. Okay? In some older 3D models, it may actually. But that dose is still lower than the threshold of where radiation can cause cancer. Okay? But of course, if you are a person who is at high risk, certain diseases like Lee-Frommel syndrome, some familial type of cancers makes you more susceptible to radiation. In that case, you may not need to go for mammogram. That is why you need to talk to your doctor about how to assess your risk before going for screening. Okay? So, alright, so screening, I think, for 3D mammogram has improved at least the management of dense breasts, so that they are able to reduce the number of supplementary ultrasound. Okay? Alright. So do I still have time?
Yes.
How many minutes more? Go ahead. Okay. Alright. So I mentioned a little bit about accuracy of screening. Yeah? So density makes it difficult, less. The radiologist that does your mammogram, who reads your mammogram, okay, is also important. So there are actually all our radiologists in Malaysia are actually well trained. They undergo training and they have credentialing, privileging, and so forth, right? So it's important that you know when you go for any breast imaging, it is done by a radiologist, okay? Because at the moment, we do have technologists doing mammogram as well as ultrasound reading, but you must know whether these technologies are being supervised by radiologists. So the quality of screening really depends on the person who reads those mammograms. So I would say go for bigger hospitals, hospitals with radiologists, especially when they are breast radiologists. How do you want to find out who are the breast radiologists? Which hospitals have breast radiologists? You can look at the National Specialist Register. It is easily available. You can Google National Specialist Register Malaysia, and you can find a list of all the breast radiologists. Okay, the other thing that you must know when you go for screening is that you look at your old mammograms, or maybe the radiologist will refer to the old mammograms. So don't throw away your old mammograms. You need to bring this with you when you come for your mammogram, so that they can compare what you had in the previous 2 years, so that any changes will then smaller and make it to be more denser. Okay, so I thought I'll just make a small, before I end, a lot of women want to know who are at risk of breast cancer, right? So I think the commonest risk factor that will affect all of us is that being a woman. So men can also get cancer, so it's about 1 in 100 cancer patients would be a man. Okay, right? The other thing is aging. Okay, already now they say ageism, you see it, but aging, if you are getting older, your risk of breast cancer increases with time. So a lot of older women used to say that, oh, you know, I'm older, nothing happened to me, most likely I'm okay. But actually, as you get older, it's always better to do the screening. So that is why our screening age groups is 50 to 74 years old, right? 40 to 50, you can go for it if you want to, but the evidence is stronger for 50 to 74 years old. And the screening mammogram is done 2 years once. Okay? This is if you have an average risk. So in Malaysia, our risk of breast cancer is probably 5%, 5 to 100 women in their lifetime will get breast cancer. Okay? But there are women who will have a higher risk, something like maybe 50% in 100 women with a certain condition. So these certain conditions would mean people with, let's say, the genetic predisposition genes, like BRCA1 and 2. Okay, the story of Angelina Jolie will highlight how a woman who's high risk decides to remove her breast and ovaries because of that high risk. So in this type of groups of people, the screening will run a website and read the recommendations as well.
And it was at the center that I actually began my education on cancer. And because of the clinic, emphasizing on breast health, and along with that, the importance of breast self-examination and mammography. Yes, we started with the analog machine way back then. Sounds very ancient now, and I think a lot of us don't know. I didn't know the difference till we started to change from analog to 2D to 3D. But I do remember working very closely with the radiographer then, and the analog machine looked the same as it is now, but the processing period was really tedious and I think it was very stressful for the radiographer. Physically, the mammograms were done using cassettes. So it's like the x-ray is in there. And then the radiographer had to take each shot and then go and physically process the film. So like what Prof said just now, a lady coming in to have a mammogram itself was stressful. And then the waiting period, waiting in that room while the radiographer goes and physically gets the x-ray done, checking, consulting the radiologist to see whether the image was good quality, and then if it was not of good quality, the radiographer has to go back and tell the lady, sorry ma'am, we have to redo. Again, the anxiety while the lady is waiting in the room, and then when she says that it has to be, the x-ray has to be retaken, it's beyond, it was very overwhelming. And I was one of them. Okay, when I was diagnosed in 1995, I had to endure the same thing. So it's from the horse's mouth, so to speak. You know? So the processing, the waiting time, the compression, because the compression literally was all up to the radiographer. So some days when she was in a bad mood, I suppose it was like her, I don't know. But the pain was there, the discomfort. But it was only for that period when we do the mammogram. So it's not a long-lasting pain. So again, while waiting in the room, the compression, the pain, the discomfort was a bit too much for some of us ladies. And I think that was the reason at that time where not many came forward. And again, the awareness about the importance of breast examination and the importance of having a mammogram done was not so, was not out there, you know. So over the years, then it became a little bit better when NCSN moved on to the 2D, to have the 2D conventional digital mammogram machine. Unfortunately, the compression still was there and is still there today. But the compression was, the compression time was reduced because I think now the radiographer could look at the image on a computer screen and then she could see, oh, this image is good, and then the lady, she can release the compression, as versus the analog where she had to keep the lady waiting in the room, but then, the compression time was, she had to release it and then the lady waits. So there, the compression time was also reduced. With that, the discomfort and the pain also was equally reduced. The anxiety was still there, waiting for the result or waiting for the radiographer to say, ma'am, you don't need to retake, or your images are good enough, please wait for the reporting. Okay? And I think the reporting time was also further reduced with the images being seen on the computer. So with that, and the radiographer's job also was reduced, I remember, because instead of physically processing the films, I think the cassettes were still used, but they had to insert it into a reader, and then the image was transferred to a computer. So that was 2D. I cannot really remember much as then, by which time I had actually moved up to this center on the first floor as Cancer Society moved on to extending support for people affected with cancer. The earlier years it was just helping ladies to get screened, and then the need came for us to actually support people who were affected with cancer. But I was equally proud and happy in 2011 when the Cancer Society went on to purchase the thermosynthesis machine. I think it was a very big welcome change for us ladies to have a mammogram using thermosynthesis. Compression was way reduced, the discomfort that went with it was also reduced because it was not totally up to the radiographer to compress the type and age tightness. The computer system with thermosynthesis was able to do that. So up to a certain tightness, the machine is able to tell the radiographer that that's enough, you don't have to squeeze any further. So with that, I think for the ladies, anxiety was way reduced, and also I think there was not many possibility of having retakes because the image was being seen straight away as what we do. And also with reporting aspect, I think with 3D it is slices, so to speak. Even though we only go home with the same 2 films, or rather 4 films, I think the intensity that goes into reporting has really improved, and with that the quality of the imaging also is improved. But we ladies go home happy that whatever we go home with good news is good news, and also because we complement it with the ultrasound, and so that again with the thermosynthesis and what Prof said, the chances of you having to do an ultrasound following your mammogram is also reduced. And like what we all know, when somebody tells you you have to do a retake of an mammogram, symptoms or whether you have any other non-related breast symptoms, we are here to support you and you. Okay, and for the Facebook, if you haven't done a mammogram, you give us a call and take a breast check. It could change your life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aditi. We surely hope that your sharing has raised awareness on the importance of early detection and hopefully we get more calls from screening comments. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to celebrate. May I please invite Dr. Marie and Mr. Burnett? To commemorate our 10th celebration, Dr. Murali and Mr. Burnett will now bring forth and place the puzzle in each fold to form the algorithm. And the count,
We were saying it's a difficult puzzle.
but it's finally pieced together. And in the count of 3, let us shine light and ignite hope in the fight against breast cancer. 3, 2, 1.